This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermasterclass.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you, the construction business owner and leader, eliminate chaos and maximize profits. That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this episode today. We're going to talk about some of the most common questions I get about putting systems in place. How do I put systems and processes in place? I need processes and systems. I need to eliminate chaos. I have cash flow issues. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode today. We're going to talk about some of the biggest profit bleeds that you are very likely dealing with and where to get started. If you're wondering, what should I do first? How do I eliminate these profit bleeds? How do I eliminate the chaos? How do I get more time, more freedom, more money? How do I avoid losing key employees because of chaos? I'll give you a great place to start. There's a mindset shift you need to make. And then we'll talk about 5 key areas to get started with. There's really one you want to get started with, but if you'll systematize these 5 areas of your business, you'll be amazed at what happens. I have a couple of words from my sponsors and maybe a resource or two that I want to share with you before we get into this episode. Here you go. All right, let's talk about a form of chaos I know you've experienced before: a bad customer review. Did you know it only takes one negative review to stop a potential job in its tracks? Your reputation takes years to build. Don't let one review change that. From Yelp to Google to Facebook, GoSite helps you manage and generate reviews all in one easy-to-use place. Research shows your customers need to see at least 30 positive reviews in order to trust your brand, and top-ranking businesses on Google have an average of 40 reviews. So, a job well done and a happy customer aren't just revenue, they're marketing opportunities. GoSite makes it easy to build your credibility and authority as a construction leader by automatically asking your already happy customers for a new review with just one click. Take control of your customer reviews and turn your 5-star success into more revenue with GoSite's easy-to-use mobile app. Get started for free at gosite.com/podcast. That's GOSITE.com/podcast. Okay, there are 2 free guides that I want to get in your hands. First up is my cheat sheet with 32 productivity hacks to make your crews and your job sites more productive and profitable. If you're frustrated by lost time, wasted time, shop time, downtime, or stolen time, this is going to help you. Second up is the Optimize Your Overhead guide. After going through this short guide, you're going to have solid strategies for reducing your insurance costs, reducing your workers' comp cost, reducing your risk, saving money on back office activities, and even turning your accounts payable into a profit center. To download your free PDF guides, no strings attached, no email address required or anything like that, go to buildermasterclass.com. You'll also be able to get some details on the masterclass on maximizing bottom line profits that my good friend Spencer Paget and I put together, and hear from one of the builders who went through it. So go to buildermasterclass.com to get your free productivity hacks and your Optimize Your Overhead guide. All right, let's talk about profit bleeds and putting systems in place in your business. I've been talking to construction business owners. I've been coaching construction business owners, interviewing construction business owners for the last several years full time, and I boiled down a lot of the problems to a handful of what I call profit bleeds. And this is what we're going to talk about. If you want to eliminate chaos, if you want to make more money, if you want to make more money without selling more work and without hiring more people, if you want to increase your bottom line and even decrease your margins that you're selling at, sell work at lower margins and make more money, then the key is to eliminate profit bleeds. That's what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what these profit bleeds are. All right, so first, if you want to do this sort of stuff, if you're like, yes, I need systems and processes, then here's where it starts. You have to start by you have to stop screwing around with symptoms. Okay, you have to stop screwing around with systems. So one of the biggest mistakes that so many people make is treating the symptoms. And one of the stories that I use from my experience is several years ago, maybe around 2015, 2016, my left shoulder stopped moving, basically. I couldn't raise it. I couldn't reach backwards. It was incredibly painful at times. So I went to an orthopedic surgeon because I was sure that I had torn something. I was lifting quite a bit at the time, and I was certain that I had torn something because it was so painful and it just stopped moving. And I had talked to my chiropractor about it, and she said, well, based on where the pain is, it's not in the joint, it's down between the shoulder joint and the elbow, because that's where it hurt. And so I went to an orthopedic surgeon, had an x-ray done, and there I was sitting on the exam table with no shirt on in this little room and waiting for an uncomfortable amount of time. And in walks the surgeon with his assistant, and he doesn't even touch me, doesn't even look at me, and he says, Mr. DeWalt, you have idiopathic adhesive capsulitis. You have frozen shoulder. He didn't even have to look at me. He just looked at the symptoms, and he knew what the root cause was. He knew exactly what the root cause was, and he told me exactly what I needed to do. He didn't go where the pain was because he knew exactly where the root cause was. It was in the shoulder capsule. And so many people are spending time screwing around with symptoms and just playing whack-a-mole, right? If you remember the game whack-a-mole at a fair or a carnival or at a theme park, you had this mallet and you put your money in, and then you tried to whack the moles that popped up through the holes quickly. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just look up whack-a-mole. This will make a lot of sense. And a lot of people come to me and they want to get better at playing whack-a-mole. They want to have faster reflexes, and they want to just become a more effective mole whacker. And that is just treating the symptoms. My advice is let's go get better at eradicating the mole problem altogether. Let's go kill the moles. Let's create an environment where the moles can't live or they don't want to live, so we don't have to play whack-a-mole. So you've got to stop screwing around with the symptoms. You have to understand that there is a root cause for everything. And this is something that I would call the systems mindset. You have to understand that every consequence that you are experiencing right now is a result of a sequence of events that led up to it. Okay? Let me say that again. Every consequence you're dealing with right now, whether it's good or bad, is a result of the sequence of events that led up to it. Most things in business, in your life, with your health, are pretty mechanical. So if you are in good physical condition, those good consequences are a result of what you've been doing leading up to that. If you're not in good health, if you're overweight, if you don't feel good, it's very likely a consequence that those consequences are a result of a sequence of events that have led up to it. Your business is not much different. The consequences you're dealing with are a result of the things you've been doing, the sequence of events that led up to it. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type sequence of events. And if you're on number 5 and you aren't happy with where you're at, you need to go back and look at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we need to take a systems mindset and understand that business is very mechanical, okay? And instead of focusing on all of your effort on being frustrated with the consequences that you're dealing with, if you want to change those consequences, you have to go upstream and change the sequence of events that lead up to it. And one of the best ways to do that is to understand how to do root cause analysis. If you want to stop screwing around with symptoms, you have to fix the root cause problem. And a really simple way to do this that I like to teach is the 5 whys method, 5 WHYs method. And the 1-minute version of that is pick something, some consequence you're dealing with that you're not happy about, that's not going well, and then ask yourself, why is that? Why is this happening? And then you'll come up with a reason, and then you ask, well, why did that happen? And you'll come up with a reason, and then you ask, well, why did that happen? And you keep asking why, say 5 times, it might be 7 times, it might be 3 times, but when you can no longer come up with an answer to the question why, you have arrived at the root cause. And that's where you need to work. That's where you need to put systems in place. So stop screwing around with symptoms, understand the systems mindset, get to the root cause, and that's where you really want to work. You want to put systems in place at the root cause. So let's talk about profit bleeds, all right? There are a handful of some of the most common and painful and expensive profit bleeds that contractors deal with. I don't care if you're a custom home builder doing $10 million a year or a commercial general contractor doing $500 million, or you're a pool builder doing $100,000 a year. These profit bleeds cut across industries, they cut across sizes, geography, it doesn't matter where you're at. These are some of the most common. So if you're not sure where to start, then I'll tell you. These are some of the most common profit bleeds. Number one is schedule delays, schedule overruns, getting tied up on a project longer than you expect, which hits you with opportunity cost. And if you haven't heard me talk about opportunity cost, what it is, here's how it hurts. And this is what I call the hidden killer of bottom lines. It's hidden because you'll never see an invoice for opportunity cost. You'll never see it show up in your bank account, but you can bet it hammers your bottom line. And opportunity cost hurts because if you get tied up on a project, let's say your typical project takes you 2 weeks to complete, but every project takes you an extra 3 or 4 days. And if you add all of that up over the course of a year, 3 or 4 days on every 2-week project, then you lose an incredible amount of days. Let's say you might lose, if every project should take 10 days and you lose 3 days on every project, then you could lose about, say, 1 to 2 months of revenue producing days. Those are days that you're not turning into dollars. So you want to be turning days into dollars at the optimum rate. And every day that you're tied up on one project and you're not able to go do revenue producing work on another project, profit producing work on another project, is how you get hit with opportunity cost. So schedule delays, whether they're at the front end of a project and a project doesn't get kicked off when it should, or delays in the middle of a project, or your inability to close out a project and get off that project and get to the next one, you get hit with opportunity cost. And that is extremely painful. In some cases, it can be 6 digits a year. And this is a great place to start. Look at the profit bleed of schedule delays, schedule overruns. Another big profit bleed, number 2, is rework. Doing work twice, either because it was built wrong the first time because of quality issues, maybe it was built from the wrong information, the wrong materials were used, there was some change that came into place, and you have to buy materials, put in labor once, and then you have to spend labor to tear it out, spend money on material and labor to build it again, and then that generally has a baked-in schedule delay as well, because instead of doing profitable work, you're doing rework, and that can be incredibly painful. So I would ask you, think about this. How many days a month are you getting hit with opportunity cost? Maybe a project's not ready when you're supposed to be there to get started and you have to find something else to do, or somebody else is causing a delay on your project. But how many days a month are you losing because of schedule delays or schedule overruns? And then How much are you spending on rework every month? How much time are you spending? How much money are you spending on rework every month? Number 3 profit bleed is unsolicited charity. This sounds nice, but it really sucks because unsolicited charity is doing work for free that you should get paid for. This is work that it could be a customer requests you to do something and they would gladly pay you for it, but you never invoice them for it because it doesn't get communicated from the field to the office. The guys and gals in the field they do the work, but then it gets lost somewhere and you don't actually invoice for it. Or you do some work and you think you're going to get paid for it, but because you didn't go through the right paper trail or didn't have the right documentation, you don't get paid for it. Or perhaps you pay a subcontractor to do something, or you have to pay a subcontractor to do something, and you don't get paid for it. So unsolicited charity, little throw-ins was another way of describing this item that I heard recently. People in the field, maybe your project managers or superintendents don't hold the customer accountable. Maybe they're doing work and not invoicing for it. The customer's asking for it and pressuring them, but because your people in the field aren't holding the line, or maybe you're not holding the line, you end up doing this work for free, and it is eating away at your margin. So think about this. How much unsolicited charity are you giving away every month? Is it $500 a month? Is it $5,000 a month? Think about what that might be. Profit bleed number 4 is lost productivity. Whether you have subcontractors or you self-perform all of your work, lost productivity hurts you. Especially if you are self-performing work, lost productivity can be extremely expensive. And just a few forms of lost productivity. Downtime, where equipment or materials are not available. So you have people standing around not being productive because they don't have the materials, the equipment, the information that they need. Shop time is a big one, where employees are coming to the shop in the morning, spending too much time in the shop in the morning, then spending too much time in the shop at the end of the day, and they're doing this on the clock, and you have to pay for that. I understand they need to spend some time, but if they're spending too much time, that adds up. If you have 10 employees spending an extra 15 minutes a day in the morning and an extra 15 minutes in the day, at the end of the day, how much is that costing you? Then there's lunchtime. Some people I ran a company where it blew my mind, but people didn't understand the clock in, clock out time. They thought lunchtime meant that they clocked out when they started eating and they clocked back in when they were done eating. And they were on the clock for 15 or 20 minutes of drive time each way. So the other one is shopping time. Not shop time, but shopping time. If your people are on the clock picking up materials, it could be killing your bottom line. If they're in the supply house, in Home Depot, at gas stations, while on the clock, during what should be revenue producing time, that is a killer. So think about this. How much lost productivity? How much is it costing you? If you have direct self-perform employees, how much is it costing you? Let's say that they're wasting an hour a day with some combination of shopping time, downtime, shop time, just lost productivity. They don't have materials, equipment, or information that they need. If your people are wasting an hour on the clock every day, how much is that costing you per month or per year? If you're paying prevailing wage or if you have union labor, that is incredibly expensive. I spoke with someone recently whose union labor costs were $75 an hour plus. I've worked on prevailing wage projects where The labor cost is $50 to $60 an hour, and that gets really, really expensive. So those are just 4 profit bleeds that you can put a number to. You can actually count those. These are quantifiable. There are a couple of other potential profit bleeds caused by chaos that you can't really put a number to, but definitely hurt. One is the lost opportunity for repeat business. Okay, if your customers are having a bad experience because of the chaos on your projects, it's possible that you're losing the opportunity for repeat business and you don't even know it. That's the thing. You may not even know it. But have you ever found out that one of your past clients negotiated a project with one of your competitors and you didn't even know about it? Or you did what you thought was a pretty good job on a project and then they bid the next project out and had other people look at it? Well, it's very possible that the chaos in your systems, or your lack of systems, the chaos on your projects could be causing you to lose the opportunity for repeat business. And then the last one is, it's very possible that the chaos in your business has or is about to cause you to lose key employees. This is an employees market right now. I've spoken with quite a few people who are superintendents, project managers, estimators, vice presidents, executives who were fed up with the chaos in their operation and either considered leaving or did leave because of the chaos. Chaos is stressful, all right? Yeah, I get it. Construction is stressful, but it doesn't have to be constant chaos. So think about this. What would happen if you think about your key employees, the people that you just really can't, or that would have make a huge disruption if they left you? That superintendent, project manager, or operations manager, the person that's carrying a lot of load. What would happen if they left because of the chaos? What would it take for you to step in and fill the gap and then try to maintain their workload, keep up, while trying to find somebody else to replace them? Not only is it very expensive, but just think about the additional workload it's going to put on you, which could cause some other domino effects. It is in your best interest to make sure and keep your key employees and eliminate chaos. So if you want a deeper dive on these profit bleeds, you can go check out episode 156, 8 profit bleeds that cause really busy contractors to lose money. I do a deep dive on that, episode 156. So those are some of the biggest profit bleeds based on my experience. So how much, if you total those up, how much profit are you bleeding every month from the combination of schedule delays, rework, unsolicited charity, and lost productivity? If you add that up, how much is that costing you every month? This is painful, all right? I've spoken with a lot of people who have done this math, and it can be 5 figures a month, which adds up, and it can be a bit of a shock. But again, if we want to solve these things, we have to get to the root cause. So the next question is, what do we do? Where do we get started? Do we need to go buy software? Do I need to hire a project manager? Do I need to hire another estimator, a salesperson? Do I need to bring an investor on? Do I need to borrow some money? What do I need to do? And here's what you need to understand. Based on my experience, there are no silver bullets, okay? It's very unlikely that you're going to be able to hire some employee to come in and solve all of these for you, certainly at one time, all right? We're not trying to hit a home run, all right? It took you a while to get into this situation, if you've been at this for a while, and it's going to take a little bit of time and effort to get out of this situation. So there are no silver bullets. There are no home runs. One of the common misconceptions I hear people say is, well, I'm going to hire a project manager, a superintendent, a fill in the blank, and they're going to come put these systems in place for me. Maybe that will work, but for the most part, the people who are good estimators, good project managers, good business development folks. They're good because they operated within a system. That's what made them good. And the skill set necessary to implement and create systems is very different from the skill set necessary to use systems well. So project managers are good at using project management systems, but maybe not so good at creating them. So it's going to be your job as the business owner, as the leader, to build these systems. So where do you get started? My advice is to look for the area that has the most chaos. Okay? Let's look at the area that's creating either the most chaos or has the biggest profit bleed. So I just asked you which of those 4 is costing you the most. You may want to stop right now, do a little calculator work, and think, all right, which one of these is hurting the most? Schedule delays, rework, unsolicited charity, lost productivity, and pick the one that is causing the most chaos or resulting in the biggest profit bleed. That's where we want to start. You can only do one at a time, right? Don't try to attack everything at one time. Let's not try to boil the ocean, so to speak. Let's just take it one at a time. So let me give you some advice on how to think about this, and then I'll give you 5 systems you can put in place. If you're not sure, you're like, I don't know where to start. There's chaos everywhere. I can't even tell which one's the most painful. If that's the case, then I'll give you some advice, some that you can just pick from and get started with. So first of all, let's talk about the mindset that you want to embrace. It's what I call right to left thinking. I talked about this back in episode 65 of the podcast and did a deep dive explanation, I think, on right to left thinking. But here's what right to left thinking means. And I'll start by explaining what left to right thinking looks like. Most people operate from left to right. And if this is you, listen, don't worry about it. The vast majority of people think this way. The good news is you can change the way you think. But left to right thinking says, all right, we're going to start with what we have at hand. We're going to just bid on the projects that come across our desk. We're going to focus on getting things started. We'll do the best we can with what we have in front of us. We'll just kind of charge along. And then when problems come up, we'll do our best to put them out. We'll be good firefighters. We'll get better at playing whack-a-mole. And then we'll get to the end of the project, the end of the month, the end of the quarter, the end of the year, and then look at the results and cross our fingers and then see what the results were. And in many cases, that doesn't work out very well. Sometimes it does, but a lot of the people who are disappointed with the results think left to right. Here's what right to left thinking looks like. Imagine you have a project schedule. It's a Gantt chart, all right? If you go all the way over to the right side of the page, it says this is when we will be done and all of the tasks necessary to be done. And then right to left thinking is basically going over to the right side of the page, clearly establishing what the goals are. What do we want to accomplish in the business? And then we work right to left, work backwards from there, and ask the question, what would it take to make that happen? So if you're a small business owner, I would ask you, what does your ideal lifestyle look like? What's your vision for 2 to 5 years down the road? How much money do you want to make? How much time do you want to spend at work every day? What do you want to focus on? What does the right side of the page look like for you? And then we ask the question, what would it take to get there? And we'll come up with some answers. Well, we'll have to generate a certain amount of revenue to do that. Okay, what would it take to make that happen? Then you can design your organization based on that. You can design your sales process based on that. You can design your lead generation process based on that. You understand that sales is a numbers game. You need a certain number of projects signed. That means you probably have an average closing rate on, or a batting average on what percentage of these deals you close, and you can do the math and figure out how many opportunities you need to bid or propose on every year to make that happen. But you operate from right to left. You start with the end in mind, and you work backwards from there. So keep that in mind. That is a fundamental mind shift that will help you tremendously if you want to eliminate this chaos and eradicate these profit bleeds. All right, now let's talk about 5 areas that you want to systematize in your business to get maximum benefit, to eliminate these profit bleeds. These are areas that I have seen, that I focus on with my coaching clients, that I've done training on, and if you will systematize these areas of your business, you will eliminate chaos, you will eliminate profit bleeds. So the first one applies to builders, remodelers, and general contractors. If you are one of those 3, if you do light commercial general contracting, or you're a home builder or remodeler, one of the biggest profit bleeds, one of the biggest root causes of your profit bleeds is the free estimates. Okay, so I've talked about this quite a bit in recent months, but you need to get paid for estimates. All right, I don't have time to get into it. I've done other podcasts on this topic. I've done webinars and training. What I'll say is, do not send out another free estimate without watching this free training video, where you'll get 3 questions that you can ask on your next appointment to get them to see the value in paying you for an estimate. I got an email from a guy a couple of weeks ago. He said, hey, I listened to this podcast, and I was on the way to an appointment, listened to this podcast about where Travis Gardner talked about ending the practice of free estimates, and he went to the appointment. After listening, while he was listening to this podcast on the way to the appointment, decided to charge for the estimate and got a pre-construction agreement signed for like $2,500. Ended up signing up for the Get Paid for Estimates masterclass. But I'm telling you, this stuff works. If you want to get a free training video to talk about that will show you how to get paid for estimates, 3 questions you can ask. Go to buildermasterclass.com/script. So that is my advice. If you're a builder, remodeler, or general contractor doing light commercial work, you absolutely need to get paid for estimates. For everybody else, you've got to know, are you pricing your work right? Are you pricing your work right? And if you're not looking back at historical data, looking at profitability, if your books aren't in a position, if you don't have the financial data to know if you're pricing your work right, you need to start there. Okay? You absolutely have to get that right. And that's where you really need to start. Everybody needs to know, are we pricing our work right? And if you don't know that, if you don't know if you're pricing your work right, if you don't know if you're profitable, if you don't have job cost reports, then I recommend you talk to the folks at Apparatus Contractor Services. You can go to goapparatus.com, and I'll have that link in the show notes. But contact them, goapparatus.com, and they will help you. They specialize in helping construction businesses get their books in order. Financial reporting, bookkeeping, and payroll services. That's what they do, and they exclusively work with construction business owners. You've got to know what your costs are. You've got to have your books right. And if you hate bookkeeping, you suck at it, or if you're just flying blind from a financial standpoint, you have to get that fixed, or you could be flying into a mountain and you just won't even know it until it's too late. So head over to goapparatus.com and talk to the folks at Apparatus Contractor Services. Number 2, for everybody, I don't care if you're an electrical contractor, a general contractor doing $50 million worth of work, or you're remodeling and self-performing the work with your 2-person crew, the system I would start you off with is you have to nail the handoff, right? I've had people bring me into their office in Florida, South Dakota, Nebraska, Texas, and I'll fly to their office and spend time with them. And I've done this so many times, without even digging into it, if they're having chaos and they're losing money or they're not making enough money, I'll say, let's talk about your handoff process. You need to nail the handoff from the office to the field. This is where most projects fall down. So examine the chaos on your projects. Look at the profit bleeds we talked about, rework, schedule delays, unsolicited charity, lost productivity. How much of it is caused, can be traced back to a bad handoff? And what a bad handoff means is that the people in the field don't have the information they need. Could be because of late decisions, selections weren't made, approvals weren't made, shop drawings weren't approved, materials weren't ordered. Examine the chaos on your project and think, is this caused by a bad handoff? And again, if you're not sure where to start, this is where I would tell you to start. If you're so overwhelmed by chaos, then push everything else to the side and focus on nailing the handoff. And what that looks like is coming up with a handoff checklist. What is a comprehensive checklist of everything the people in the field need in order to do their job? All the way down to, I'm not just talking about model numbers and specs, but every decision, everything that they'll need to build the project. I was on a call with one of my clients a few weeks ago, and while he was on the call, he got a call with me. He got a call from his plumber who asked the question, hey, we've got a 2-bowl sink. Which side does the garbage disposal go on? That is a piece of information that should have been handed off to the plumber early on. So do your field crews, whether they are self-perform employees, your own labor force, or subcontractors, do they have 100% of the information that they need to finish the job? So many times people give them just enough information to get started. And frankly, a lot of you general contractors are guilty of giving your crews and your subs and your trade partners as little information as possible, as late as possible. And that's where a lot of the chaos is coming from. So nail the handoff. Be very disciplined about handing the project off, making sure that the crews in the field have 100% of the information they need to finish the project. Not just enough information to get started. Give them all the information they need to finish the project. So that's number 2. Number 3, the number 3 area to systematize is the relationship between general contractors and trade partners. Whether you are the GC or whether you are the subcontractor or the trade partner, there's a lot of chaos that comes in there. And this could be considered handoff, but whichever side of that equation you're on, let's say you're the general contractor, you need to make sure that your subcontractors have a clearly defined scope of work. What's in, what's out. And if you are a subcontractor, you need to make sure that your customer, the general contractor, is giving you everything you need. And you need to hold them accountable to give you everything you need before you get started. So if you're the general contractor, how are you communicating the expectations? And don't tell me you have a contract, because contracts cover your ass from a legal standpoint, but they don't communicate information. So how are you communicating expectations on level of quality, the actual work that will be put into place, schedule deadlines, sequencing, staging, etc.? How are you communicating those expectations to them? If you're the subcontractor, are you requiring your general contractor to give you all the information before you get started? Or are you just allowing them to piecemeal it to you as late as possible, as little as possible? So we'll talk a little bit more about in number 5, what you can do. But think about, are you communicating 100% of the expectations to your trade partners? And trade partners, are you holding your general contractor accountable to give you 100% of the information you need? And if you're a subcontractor or a trade partner, you may be thinking, well, I can't do that. They're the client. False. If you go back and listen to an episode with Steve Kreitzberg, who is the owner of Apparatus Contractor Services, he said you should always be the buyer. Always be the buyer. Just because you're the subcontractor or the supplier, that doesn't mean you can't hold your customers accountable. It's your job to hold them accountable. Tell them what they need to give you, hold the line. Don't schedule the project until you have everything you need to schedule the project. Don't show up for the project. Don't mobilize until you know you have everything that you need. Hold them accountable. All right. So number 4 is change orders. A lot of the profit bleeds, specifically unsolicited charity and rework and schedule delays. Actually, all 4 of these profit bleeds can be traced back to a bad change order process. So a few things you can do there. Number 1 is to have a clearly defined change order process. Set that expectation up front. All right. The worst time to have a discussion about the change order process is when there's a change order request on the table. So my advice is, as soon as you sign the contract, educate your client, whether they are a homeowner or a commercial business owner or a general contractor. Educate them on the change order process, set the expectations. If you have a contract that has a change order process stipulated, then you should stick to it. If you are let's say you work with homeowners, if you're a remodeler or a trade contractor or a custom home builder, my advice is to have a change order request form, a change request form. Funnel all of these ideas and requests from your customers into a form. So they are forced to think through what they actually want, articulate what they actually want, and then take a little bit of time to actually put that information into a form. And then you have a paper trail of those requests. That will filter out some of the ridiculous requests that never were going to go anywhere anyway. It will give you a better idea of what they actually want, and you'll have a list of those things, a paper trail that you can follow through with those. And I don't care who you are, don't do additional work without a signed change order. I don't care who you are. Don't do anything without a signed change order. The change order doesn't have to be exactly to the penny, but you have to have something. Your contract has to be adjusted to cover your costs. So if some of the details are to be determined, but you need to move forward, then put an estimated change order in place. If you think it's going to be $50,000 to $75,000, then have your client sign a $75,000 estimated change order with the agreement that you'll reconcile it later. But I've seen it so many times where people get in trouble, whether they are a subcontractor, a custom home builder, commercial general contractor, they get in trouble because they don't hold the line on that. And they proceed with work without getting a signed change order. I get it. There are some situations when you need to make a business decision for the business relationship, but I'm telling you, from a hard accounting and legal and risk management standpoint, you're really putting yourself at risk. So don't do work without a signed change order. And then number 5, the last area to systematize, if you want to eliminate those profit bleeds, would be to put a quality control program in place, a simple quality control program. And here's where I would start. I would clearly define, what does done look like? Make sure that the people in the field doing the work know the answer to this question. What does done look like? A great way to do this would be to prepare a checklist in advance. Don't wait until after they do the work and give them the checklist, or go audit their work. Give them the checklist. Hey, make sure this is what I'm going to be looking for. Make sure it's done. Give that to the people in the field, not necessarily just the people in the office, because they may not be great at handoff. Get a checklist to your trades. So if let's say you're a home builder, put together a checklist for your foundation crew for the framing inspection, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, etc. Give it to the crew when they get started or a couple of days before they finish and say, this is what done looks like. This is what we're going to be looking for. Make sure you check this off before you leave so we don't have to call you back. All right. Another great idea I heard from a custom home builder is using visual scopes of work. It's one thing to have specs or shop drawings or submittals, but what's even better, especially if you have folks who don't speak English that well or don't have access to the shop drawings and specs, would be visual scopes of work. Give them a picture. Show them this is what the garage door header detail should look like. Green check mark. This is what it should not look like. Red X. If there are specific details you're looking for, take a picture of what done looks like and then share it with them up front so they know what done looks like. If you can, issue detailed purchase orders or detailed scopes of work that tell them exactly what their scope of work is, and then inspect the work at key phases of the project. Don't try to pick it up at the end. Don't wait until punch list time. So, for example, if you have framing, whether it's metal stud framing, foundation walls, masonry, wood framing, etc., there are a few key points at which you can check things to avoid problems. Number one would be layout. When there are chalk lines on the slab or on the subfloor, check the layout. That's a great time to catch problems. When they are 20% complete, let's say if it's a conventional wood-framed building, when they're 20% complete, let's check some of the door header details, check some of the rough openings on things. Make sure that the straps and the fasteners and everything are right when they just get started, before they get to 80% complete. And then make sure and check their work before it gets covered up, before rough-in happens, before insulation goes in, certainly before drywall goes in. But check things at certain phases. Help them out. And then another great way that's a little bit counterintuitive or not so obvious, that will help with quality control, would be mock-ups. One of the best ways to flush out any misunderstandings about details is to build a mock-up. If you're not sure how this goofy window detail or this unusual transition is going to happen, create a mock-up and then get everybody to look at it and say, yes, this is it. I did a senior living community that had about 250 units in it about 10 years ago, and there were lots of stakeholders involved. This was about a $100 million project. So we created an exterior wall mock-up that showed all of the EIFS details and the windows and the colors, and got approval on that before we got started. And then we did an entire unit inside, all 100% complete, finished. And that entire unit was the mock-up that was the measuring stick for quality of finish, details, etc. And we got everybody to sign off on that. Architect, owner, capital partner, marketing, sales, etc. So use mock-ups to your advantage. All right, so there are some keys if you want to systematize your business. Number one, start thinking right to left. What do you want? What does done look like? What does right look like? What does success look like? And start working backwards from there. Areas that you want to start systematizing, if you're not sure, number one, sales process. Make sure you're getting paid for estimates if you can. Make sure you're pricing your work right. Number two, nail the handoff from the office to the field. Number three, if there's an interaction between general contractors and trade partners, make sure you're clearly defining the scope of work. Make sure you're communicating to your trade partners. And make sure that your general contractor or contractors are communicating with you. Number four is lock down your change order process. Number five, quality control program. So let me ask you this. How much profit are you bleeding, or how much time are you losing from schedule delays? How much is rework costing you every month? How much work are you giving away? How many throw-ins are you giving away every month to your clients? How much work are you not getting paid for? And then if your crew is losing, if every one of your employees in the field are losing 1 hour a week, how much is that costing you? Or how much lost time, shop time, shopping time, downtime are you getting hit with? And then add that up. And then some of the others that you can't really put a number on, are you missing out on repeat business because of the chaos? What if you start to lose that the confidence of your clients? What if your reputation starts to get tarnished because of the chaos in your business? And then what if you lose a key employee because of the chaos? What's that going to do to you? Is that going to be like a lead domino that takes you in a wrong direction? Well, if you want to put systems in place, if you want to drive your projects, if you want to reduce cycle times and eliminate schedule overruns and schedule delays, if you want to nail the handoff, if you want to boost productivity, the job site, if you want to streamline trade partner operations, if you want to get paid for all of your work, then there is something available. There's a program that's only available a few times a year, and it is the Co-Construct Masterclass. This is a masterclass that I put together with my good friend Spencer Paget in 2020. It is for custom home builders, remodelers, and general contractors. Whether you use Co-Construct or not, I put it together specifically with Co-Construct users in mind, but when we were done, about 85% of the content turned out to have nothing to do with the software. There's about 15% of the content that is specific to Co-Construct users, but 85% of the content is really, it has nothing to do with the software. It works and frankly, it works no matter what type of work you're doing. But if you are a builder, custom home builder, spec home builder, remodeler, general contractor, or any other type of contractor, and you want to do those things, if you want to put these systems in place to drive your projects, nail the handoff, reduce cycle times, then the Co-Construct Masterclass is one of the best things I can do for you. A couple of testimonials from past clients. Tom Williams, who is a custom home builder in the Southeast, said this: life-changing, no exaggeration. Name 5 of the biggest problems you're having in your company. This masterclass has the answers. Andrew Meters said, completely worth the investment, great content. I wish I could have taken this class 2 years ago. I'd be farther ahead. And Thomas Rose said, if you want to make more money in your business, sign up. You have no idea what you are missing out on. So I've given you some pretty good advice on systems you can attack, but if you want to take it to the next level and you want in-depth training and learn exactly how to put these systems in place, then one of the best things I could do for you is point you to the Co-Construct Masterclass. And you can go to buildermasterclass.com, look for the Co-Construct Masterclass on there, or you can go straight to buildermasterclass.com/co-construct, and that'll take you straight to that masterclass. Enrollment for this masterclass is available right now for a limited time, and it's one of the best things I can do for you. So go check that out. As always, I appreciate the ratings and the reviews. If you could take a moment and leave a rating or a review for this podcast, that helps get the word out there. If you could share it with somebody else that you think would get some value out of it, that would be fantastic. And if you need one-on-one help with this and you want to talk about working with me one-on-one to put systems in place and eliminate profit bleeds, you can go to constructionleadingedge.com and click the button that says schedule a free call with me, and we can talk about mapping out a plan, lay out some goals and some targets for you, and then talk about what working with me one-on-one might look like and see if that makes sense for you. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt from buildermasterclass.com and constructionleadingedge.com. I will see you next time. A happy customer isn't just revenue, it's a marketing opportunity. From Google to Yelp to Facebook, join the more than 30,000 small businesses already using GoSite to request, respond, and manage reviews, all from one easy-to-use dashboard. GoSite puts the power back in the hands of you, the construction business owner, with a mobile app that transforms how you run your business by making it easier for customers to find, book, pay, and review your services online. Get started for free at gosite.com/podcast. That's GOSITE.com/podcast.